Good day, future chefs. Week 6 is upon us. I can't believe how fast this time is going with us. But now we're all the way into the almost end of October, and we're going to cook some pork with some applesauce, because pork and apples always go together really well, and some maple roasted acorn squash, because it's squash season, and we're going to enjoy it with a little bit of sweetness. And I like some sweetness in my seasonal flavors right now, so this is a great seasonal dish, and I hope you enjoy cooking it at home. And the next dish we'll be cooking will be something different. So enjoy cooking, have fun, and best of all, enjoy. Ingredients you will be using today: Italian flat leaf parsley, butter, acorn squash. This is a small acorn squash. This is about the size of a softball, but for the recipe, if you're cooking for 4 people, use a medium size. It will probably be around a small pumpkin, okay, or 2 small ones are great. And we're going to keep the skin on those. I have my maple syrup right there. That's grade A dark maple syrup. I like to use the dark kind, and organic, or just the really good maple syrup, because it's really delicious, and I don't like using anything with high fructose corn syrup in it. Then we have olive oil, center cut pork chops. These are bone in, as you can see the T right here. I like to have bone in on my meat because I believe it brings more flavor to the pan and to my mouth. So I like to have a little bit of the dark meat, and of course, you know, it's a little lighter over here, but it's all dark meat to me. So I like to enjoy my pork with the bone in, but of course you could use bone out, center cut pork chops, no problem, or the one with the long bone, Frenched. That's very nice as well. I tried looking for those to be fancy in the store, but I could not find. So we're using these for today. I'm doing 2. Black pepper. Already weighed out cinnamon. You could use some extra cinnamon if you want to top it on top of our applesauce. Mine is, of course, Mott's, household favorite. You could use chunky. If not, I use regular here on this one. It's just smooth. And our salt. Okay? That's our ingredients for today. Equipment we'll be using today. Our first and foremost thing is a salad spinner. I'll be using a small salad spinner to clean the parsley. You can pick any salad spinner any size. I have a few different types. This one's great because I can drain the water off the side. It's fun. It gives you a little bit of exercise when you're spinning it. And our students and young chefs love to use these little nifty things, and they're great for greens and anything you want to dry, seeds, whatever you want to use. So invest in a salad spinner if you don't have one. And if you want to dry the parsley the long way, you're going to have to use a lot of paper towels. And of course, we know that's not sustainable, so it's not very cost effective either to be using a lot of paper towels to dry all our greens. Chef's knife, of course, handy dandy. Everything else listed is basically what we've used in the past. This is a flat rounded spatula, but it's metal, so I can get the squash off the pan. I'm going to be using tongs. This is called a French griddle. Both sides. This side has the griddle on it, and this side, well, this is a griddle, and this side has the nice grooves in it, so it makes that nice grill marks when you want to cook inside and make that grill sense and look on your meat. I'm going to be using this today to cook nice and flat on my pork, since my flat top's been giving me issues in my kitchen. So I'm going to be using that today, and it's just a different thing to see for the students to learn. And last but not least, this is my half sheet pan. I'll be using a Silpat. This is made out of fiberglass. This is made in France. It's a great little tool to use. It's reusable. Obviously, it has years of oil on it, as you can see there with my finger, but I like it because it's already seasoned, and I don't need to add any olive oil to it or much spray to it because it's already ready to go. So I usually just hang it to dry after I wash it with a little soap and water, keep it, and I use it over and over again until it turns black and I can't use it anymore. But other than that, you could use parchment paper or the regular old, just put it right to the pan. You're going to have to use more oil when you have it on the pan here. So that's why we invest in such things like this, and in the long run, grand scheme of things, it saves us money, time, and it's very easy to use, and it gives us a consistent product. So invest in a Silpat if you don't have one. Many different stores have them, as well as Amazon. That's all our different equipment for today. So let's get started cooking. Let's start by prepping our pork, pull it out of the fridge, get it to room temperature before we use it, because it will cook at an more even rate when you pull it from the fridge and have it at room temperature before you cook it. So I'm going to take my pork, I'm just going to cover it with a paper towel, pat it nicely, make sure you're hitting every piece of the pork. This tenderizes it just ever so slightly as well, so that helps. Every little step helps here. And see, I'm getting some moistness off the pork, so I want to get it so it is dry before I season it. That one's done. You can also dry the pan so I don't put it back into a wet pan. That one's ready. As you can see the difference here, this one's glistening and this one's dry. So let's get this one to look the same as that one. Again, I'm taking it and I'm just patting it, covering it. This is the fat cap here. You want to make sure you get that. My pork looks pretty good. Getting the bone there. And now we're ready to leave our pork on the side until we're ready to season and cook it. So leave this somewhere safe and out of the way, but not by your stove where it's going to warm up too much. So leave it away from your cooking items and away from your stove. First, we're going to start with our acorn squash in the vegetable category. Acorn squash is a variety of pumpkin, of course, or squash, and this grows in the winter, fall to winter time. This one is a very hard squash. Use a very sharp knife when cutting the squash, but we're going to cook it with the skin on because the skin does soften when you cook it over time. So if you have one of these in your knife kit, this is a little sidebar teaching moment. This is called a steel. Okay, this one is a regular old steel. Some are diamond, some are carbon. This one is just a regular old steel. I'm going to show you how you're going to hone your knife. This is honing your knife. It's not sharpening your knife when you're using this. Common misconception. Your knife needs to be honed to bring its sharpness back, but it doesn't sharpen your knife. It brings it so the edges are closer together and can cut more vividly and sharply, but not actually sharpening your knife. To sharpen your knife, you actually have to whittle away at the metal of your knife. And to actually successfully get your knife honed properly, you're going to put your knife at a 90-degree angle here. And then you're going to do half of that angle. And then another half of that angle. And you're going to pull from both sides. And you can do that about 8 times on each side. And just hold it on your board like that. That's what beginners do. And then you see people do it in the kitchen like this. But it's dangerous because you could hit your thumb, or that's why there's a guard here, but you could always hit your hand, so don't do that. But that's honing our knife. And the idea behind honing your knife, and this is what we were taught in culinary school, was that your knife, when it's sharp, is like this. Okay, imagine that to be your tip of your knife. That being that part of your knife. Okay, those are my fingertips right here. Your knife over time starts to splinter at the end. And that's what starts happening when you cut into vegetables and fruits and meat. So when you hone your knife using this tool, you're bringing your knife back to here. But you can see that the edges are starting to round, so it's not exactly sharp. You brought the edge back, but still your knife is still not sharp here. So you're still having some friction as you cut. I can feel it. Amateurs will not, but this is what we're doing, is honing. I know it's a little bit of an explanation right now, but it's important that you know this and you use this tool. If you have it in a knife kit or you have it in your block, use it. It's great, and it helps save your knife from being tarnished for a long time. And then you could go and learn how to sharpen it, or I could teach you how to sharpen it on the side lesson, but that's a whole different story. This will keep your knife going for maybe a month and a half longer, depending on how much you cook. For me, it's about a week or two, then I have to sharpen my knives. Okay, moving on. I have a sharp knife. Now I'm going to cut into my acorn squash. I'm going to cut on the top side here where the root, well, I guess the flower was, and the flower started. This would be the root end anyways, but this didn't grow from the ground. So It grew out of the ground, and it is considered a fruit. So we're going to take it and cut the top of this fruit by about just shy of an inch, right down the top, and push hard. Not for the meek. And you have this nice little flower. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow around each petal, and I'm just going to cut that into little segments. Some of you might want to cut in a double because they're tiny, so I'm going to do that, as you can see, like these two. And then the bigger ones I'll be able to cut into sections like these guys. And as you can see, I'm pushing down. So you can see here, I'm going to push down on my knife with my hand. So I'm just going to do this, thumb on top, every finger on top, and I'm pushing because it is a hard cut. And here I'll do 2, but I'll push. Here's a big one, that'll be 1. And this one will be 1. As you can see, I'm a lot of pressure, and you can hear it snapping. And then you come back, and then you're going to take and just pop them. You can push with your thumb here and just pop them off. I'll show you from this side. And you can hold here and just pop your little petals off. And we're using the whole vegetable here. I love this type of squash. It's delicious. So, and now we have nice chunks. I'm trying to keep the shape of the squash because it's very pretty, and we enjoy cutting things that keep the loveliness of Mother Nature's intention going with it. So I cut the bottom little tip off there, okay? Little slice, and then I'm going to lay it flat. I'm going to cut it in half. From here, I'm going to have to clean up a little bit of a mess. We have our pumpkin seeds, which you could use and save and roast them and make them into a delicious snack. But I'm going to take a cheap spoon, very thin cheap spoon, rounded, a soup spoon if you will, and you're going to just scoop all those seeds out. I'm going to put them onto the corner of my board here. And as you can see, I'm just taking my thumb and I'm pushing behind the spoon, in the back of it, and I'm just getting all that innards out. And that's good, nice and clean. Next one, again, I start from the top here, the smaller end, and go to the bottom. Okay, starting from the top, going to the bottom, and scraping all the way to the back of it. As you can see there, and then when you get to the bottom, you can just kind of cut it away, and you see these little stragglies. You can kind of use the sharp end of your spoon and pull it with your finger, or that's your cleaned squash. Now let me show you how to cut one. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it into, again, just shy of an inch. Let's go right there. Sections. Now put your hand down on top of it again. And I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of about a 5-inch. So it's just about an inch each. And then I'm going to turn it on its side and find out where I'm going to cut it. Okay, so from here I'm going to have to cut that in half because I want the sections to be just around that size. So I will cut there, there, and there. So they cook at the same rate. Now for these, they're kind of more fun because you can kind of look around and cut to where you want, and they're fun shapes. So they'll look the same as well. Again, here, you don't want to cut it between each groove, but you can because some line up. So that one's nice. This one I might want to go a little larger. This one a little bigger than where the groove dips down. And that's the acorn squash. So have fun cutting it. It's easy. People are very scared of it sometimes, but again, maybe I have to cut a little edge off here, but I could do it this way. But Make sure you just use your strength. Don't push too hard. Use a sharp knife. And most of all, have fun. Alright, place your squash in a bowl. We're going to season it and get it ready for the oven. So make sure you have all your seasonings around. I have my cinnamon, my salt, my pepper, my olive oil, and the maple syrup. So first start with your olive oil around the bowl, around the sides, so it gets to the bottom of the bowl, and then right on top, a little drizzle. Give it a nice toss. We could do it with both hands here and use your arms, just as we used to flip the pan. And the last lesson, till they are nice coated. Give them a little swirl and toss, and toss, and toss. Pinch of salt first. Maybe a little more if you have a bigger squash. That's just going to get the juices flowing. Next, a dash of pepper. A little spice. It's always nice. Then our cinnamon. Just kind of shake it. Just do like, I don't know, half or a quarter. Shake it 5 to 10 times. Do another half to quarter. Do that until it's almost pretty much covered. Alright. And then our maple syrup. You're going to use just, I don't know, maybe a third to half of it. Because you don't want it to cook and burn in there. Because if you put too much in there in the oven, it could burn in the pan, and you don't want that flavor. So I think that should be good. We'll check upon mixing. Now, this might be a good idea to use a spoon to get it going here, because I put a lot in there. That looks pretty good and covered to me. I like that. And again, this is a raw vegetable, and it's safe to completely just stick your finger in there and taste for seasoning. Is it sweet enough? Is there enough salt? You want a little bit of salt in there. Is there enough cinnamon? I think it's perfect. But you can always add a little more of what you like. And we're going to put this on our pan. Let me grab the pan. Grab yourself a soft spatula so you get all the liquid at the bottom here, and we're just going to toss that on the pan. And before you spread it, I like to just take the soft spatula and get all the good maple syrup and olive oil together out of there. It should smell almost like you're baking, like for cookies. You are baking, but baking for cookies or something like that. And you could just spread your squash out with your pan, or with your spatula or your hand here. And I usually like to get all of them so some of them are facing down, so I have the skin side up on a good amount of them, like the petal sides, these. And then we're going to put them in the oven for anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. It really matters on the oven. Okay? And that's our squash prep. Let's prep out your parsley. Take it, and all I'm going to do on the bottom here, I'm going to take the last 3 to 4 inches of the parsley and just give it a good old twist. This hand this way, this hand this way, you know, vroom, vroom, vroom. Okay? That's gone. This you could save on the side for some stock. And now I'm going to take my parsley and start just taking the little leaves apart here and kind of picking it. Okay, doesn't need to be perfect. I save the stems on the side for stock again, but you just want to pick yourself enough parsley for the recipe. So about a quarter of the cup, and the rest you could save, or you could wash it all at once, which I like doing as well. But let's just do enough for today. That looks pretty good. The rest we'll save for another time. And as you can see, I gain more as I just pull it away. So, all right, that will just save on the side. Now get yourself a bowl. Parsley leaves in the bowl. Get some cold running water. If you want to add some ice cubes to the parsley, you can. That'll get some grit out of that. But you want to just wash your parsley with a little cold water. Just filling it up ever so slightly. And I'm going to push them into the cold water and let them sit for 2 to 3 minutes. And then we're going to wash them with our salad spinner. Hang tight. Parsley's been sitting for a few moments. I'm going to take my salad spinner, take the top off. A good old trick is to just take the basket out, take your parsley, and just throw it right into the basket and let the basket's water drain, the initial water drain over the bowl with the water in it. So you don't have to keep on emptying your salad spinner with water. Again, you're going to pull your parsley just from the top of it. Try not dip your fingers too deep down into the water because that will agitate the sand and or dirt on the bottom, and it will be reintroduced to the parsley that you just washed. All right, give it a couple shakes, get rid of my bowl, and now I stick my top of my salad spinner, lock it up, and give it a couple spins there. As you can see, the water is just spinning right off it. And then I will take it and pour it out into my sink. So you could hear it. And one more time. Grab yourself a paper towel. And we're going to empty the parsley onto the paper towel. Get it all out of there. Make sure you grab all of it. Okay. Pick any initial big stems you missed at the beginning there away. And then you're going to just spread your parsley out on this lovely paper towel. And then roll the paper towel up just to grab any extra moisture from the parsley that didn't dry. Just dry off the board. Pat it. Get rid of that stuff. Pat it. And now we're ready to cut our parsley. So you're going to just bunch it up. Okay. And roll it. I'm just rolling it with my fingers here. Pressing it and rolling it. Still has a little bit of moisture, so we'll get some of that out. But now, I'm ready to cut. And so I just bring my knife through it. And just like we did our garlic cut, hand on top. And parsley can be cut fine. Unlike basil and some other ingredients, parsley could be beat up pretty well. This is a good amount of parsley. I don't know if I'm going to use all this. But just keep on chopping until you get it pretty fine. And they're all about the same. Because you want it to kind of just drop nice and separate all over when you're done cooking. Parsley. Alright, so let's season and cook our pork. I have the olive oil here, just regular mixed olive oil and canola oil. My flat top on medium high. I'll get that nice and seasoned. Now I'll just put some little touch of oil on my pork. Rub it in with my one hand. I'm going to take a pinch of salt. Nice crust. Good pinch and a half on each part of the pork. Each side, I should say. Maybe a little more. That's good. Flip it. dash. Rub the oil. Make sure you touch every part of the meat. That's a trash cut that you did. Salt. Looks good. Let it sit a second there. Rinse your hand. So you can use your pepper mill. Dry my hands off. And now I'll just pepper the one side of the pork. I like a good amount of pepper, as you all know. And then let's put our pork on the griddle. Again, pepper side down, facing away from you. Again, pepper side down, pushing away from you. I'm cooking it right over the heating elements. I have it on medium-high heat here. And now I will pepper the backside after I wash my fingers. I have a timer I will start for about 5 minutes per side. Pepper just over the meat. And we'll let those cook out until the timer says we can flip them. Alright, our pork chops are ready to be flipped. Nice browning. Nice browning. And that's what we want. Again, we'll cook them another 5-6 minutes and we'll let them rest. Our squash should be about 10 to 20 minutes. 10 to about 15 minutes in, almost done cooking. Pork's done cooking. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to put it right on this pan. Let that cool down. I'm going to take whatever fat and juices off my griddle that I turned off. And I'm going to carefully pour it into this little pot I have over here. Okay. And pouring. Just a little bit, but I could also deglaze with a little water just to get any excess flavor off the bottom of the griddle there. So I'll let that go for a minute to reduce, of course, and gather flavor and build. Oh, it's fun. Use my spatula to get any good flavor off. Okay. Now I'm ready to pour. Again, carefully right into my little pot there. And the griddle is ready to be cleaned. Now I'll add some rest or, the rest of my maple syrup in there. Get all of it out. And I'm going to bring that to a boil. You could add a pinch of parsley in there too. And bring it right up. Any juices that come from the bottom of your pork that's cooling, pour right in there. And we're going to add to this little sauce we're making. Squash is done cooking. Should have a slight browning to it. Look nice. If I have a toothpick, I'm just going to poke it and you should be able to pick it up and drop it at the same time, okay? So I can go right to the skin, I go right to the side, and it's gonna drop. Skin might bite it and hold it for a little bit, but it will eventually slide right off, okay? And you leave that aside and let it cool for a few minutes, as it will continue cooking as it cools. That's why you don't want to overcook it as it's in the oven. You want to make sure it is just enough that it has a bite to your toothpick, and it will hold for just a slight second, and then it will slide itself off. Our pork is just cooled just a little bit, so now slice it. So now what I like to do is just slice it away from the bone, and I'm going to start at the top here, and I'm just going to cut little cutlets here, as far as the knife can go. On the other side. Okay, you can see I can get that away. And then here, I can cut. And then here. Okay, a little tough there. Now I just take it, I'm going to put it on my plate, which you will see in just a second here. I'll take there we are, and now I'm going to take my butter sauce I have right there with this spoon right here. I'll put the applesauce on the bottom, little acorn squash piled up, and then I'll just mix up my sauce real quick, take it and spoon it just over the pork. If you want a little bit on the squash, you could do that. It's delicious. And then take your pinch of parsley here and just put it right on top of the pork. And voila, there is your beautiful dish. Enjoy. Well, that wraps up our great week of cooking and another lesson that I hope you learned something from me, and I hope you enjoyed another flavor from me. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to email me. Until next time, I'm Chef T Squared, and I hope you guys have a great time. I don't know where Chester's at, but he's been around, so I hope you guys been well, and until next time, enjoy.